Okay, hello everyone. Can you hear me? I had an adventure. If anybody travels I-45 on a regular basis, an accident is guaranteed at least one a day. Okay, so I had my one a day today. But I'm glad to be here. I was looking forward to the experience. And I've been working with authors for about 10 years. About 10 years. And I've done a series of events for authors because my main claim to fame is the fact that I fell in love with authors when I was a kid. I became a reader. It was my place of escape, and so authors are superheroes to me. And so if you're an author, you're a superhero. And if you're a superhero, then you need to do some ghostwriting, okay? So what I sent around the table was, may I borrow yours? I sent around just a sheet so that you can take good notes, all right? And since this isn't a place where I have my visual aid, you are having to listen to me. So let me talk to you a little bit about ghostwriting, some keywords. Thank you, sweetie. Some keywords that I want you to think about when you think about ghostwriting. And the reason why keywords are important is because they help us with that SEO thing, and they help us get recognition and all that wonderful kind of stuff. So when you think about ghostwriting, think about being an author, think about business, thinking about memoirs, thinking about leaders, think about all those wonderful kind of people. And I'm going to send you a copy of my presentation. Say thank you, Sharon. Okay, all right. So are you a ghostwriter? That's my question. Are you a ghostwriter? And I need a little feedback from you.
Yes, I actually am.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, you know,
Yes.
yes, that's a good thing. That's a wonderful thing. So my question is, really? That's good. That's really good. So why ghostwrite? If you've been in this arena for a while and you've traveled the literary highway, you understand that ghostwriters make a little bit more money on the services that they provided versus some of the other copywriting services. So let's say you're interested in ghostwriting. Number one, because you're a good writer, and that's the qualification. You need to be a good writer. In my case, I'm a good editor, and then I'm a good writer. So when you put the two together, that opens the door for me to write in the tone or the voice of other people. Okay, so let me give you some reasons why you should ghostwrite. You ready? You'll get paid up front. You will not have to wait on your money. You will get paid up front, and you can make more money doing this, like I mentioned earlier, than other writing services, and it expands your knowledge base. I'm currently working, well, actually I've finished a book. One of my clients is doing a book on accountability, and it's a nonfiction business book. And of course, I know what accountability is, but I did not know what the industry experts were saying about accountability. And because I had to do tremendous amounts of research, and even, you know, I'm open to interviewing experts in the area to support my ghostwriting project. It expanded my knowledge base by leaps and bounds. You ought to see my Audible account. And also, you won't have to market the book to sell it. Once you write the book and you get the go-ahead from the author, it's done. Your experience with that book is completely done. So you don't have to market it. You don't have to worry about it being published. You don't have to worry about the editing. You work with the editor, but you don't have to worry about it. It becomes somebody else's responsibility for that book to be successful. And then you can keep it professional and not be emotionally tied to the book. So let me share something with you. These are my book babies. Don't you say nothing about my book babies. I'm not real good with constructive criticism, even though as an author I've learned to be real good with constructive criticism, at least to put on my happy face and smile. Meanwhile, on the inside, the dialogue is, I am going to cut you up when you leave. But imagine what happened to me when I got my first negative review on Amazon. I hunted the lady down. She did an anonymous review. But baby, I used to work for the Boy Scouts, and we know how to find our man. I hunted that girl down, and I had a very interesting conversation with her. I learned from my literary mentors not to do that anymore, so I won't do that anymore. Actually, you can take a bad review and turn it around to something good. You just have to be constructive and creative, and we're already creative, so. And then it'll make you a better writer. I like taking writing adventures. I like for someone to say to me, I love it when somebody says to me, oh, you don't have expertise in that area, so, you know, you wouldn't write a good book in that particular area or on that particular subject. But as a ghostwriter, you are giving an internal and external response. You're saying, I'm willing to go on this literary journey. And that's very important. Okay, so it'll make you a better writer. Has it made me a better writer? By leaps and bounds. By leaps and bounds. And ghostwriting books are easier to research. They're easier to research.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
So, you don't come with preconceived ideas from your experience or your expert, your ideologies or your right. So you aren't, again, that kind of ties into the fact that you're not emotionally attached to this book. You know, like I told you, if somebody says something about my babies, I want to cut you, but anyway. So it allows you, it's just kind of like you go work for an employer. You know that you don't own the building. You know that when all is said and done, when it comes time to pay employees, they have to be responsible for that. You don't have to. So what happens with that is you can be as inquisitive as you want to be. You know, you're not biased when you go and do your research. Okay? Did I answer your question? Okay. Now let's talk about the characteristics of a ghostwriter. So a seasoned writer, you could be a seasoned writer. I would not write an article. I would not write a blog. I would not write, do something small and then say, okay, I'm a ghostwriter now. A lot of people in the literary industry, this is one of my pet peeves, but I had to be in the industry for a while before I made up my mind that you don't become an expert overnight. And I had to see that, I had to learn that, you know, because a lot, especially in our culture today, a lot of people are faking it until they make it, and they're presenting themselves to be A, B, C, D, and E. I used to not understand some of the seasoned writers, their comments when I was in writing groups, because I've always been a little naive, believe it or not, as old as I am, I'm still naive. So I'm like, well, why can't I do this or what, you know? But there is a lot to say for experience. There's a lot to say about passion for your craft. There's a lot to say about allowing yourself to publish several books and having that experience, you know, participating in writers groups, being around writers like this. There's a lot that makes you a better writer when you do that. And so some people, and a lot of people, I'll be nice and say a lot of people, we like to be behind our PC, our iPad, our iMac Pro. We like being behind that, and we're not good people. You understand what I'm saying? We're comfortable. Give me my pajamas a cup of exotic tea, and maybe occasionally a jazz album, and my computer, and I could stay there for the rest of my life. But it's not that I'm an introvert, it's just I'm really comfortable creating. I'm really comfortable behind that space. And let's be honest with each other, sometimes people aren't very nice. Sometimes they're downright mean. And so you get in a room with a bunch of people and you never know what's gonna happen. But I know what's gonna happen when I'm behind my PC. I know what's gonna happen when I'm behind my Mac. I'm in control of that environment. So a lot of people, they wake up one day, well, not a lot, let's say some people wake up one day and say, well, I think I want to do some ghostwriting. But they really haven't done the research. They don't know how much you need to charge folks. They aren't really well versed in the business side of ghostwriting or writing, period. So if you're a blogger, if you've done a few articles in a magazine, that does not, even if you have a journalism degree, that does not equip you to be a ghostwriter. What equips you to be a ghostwriter is writing. Writing on a large scale. You know, when we go to college, we stay in college for a minimum of 2 years. There's a reason for that. We have to go through the process, the maturity process. Writing, you got to do the same thing. And people think because in kindergarten somebody taught us how to write our letters, that qualifies us to write. But that does not qualify us to write. What qualifies us to write is we've surrendered to the experience and we're ready to move forward. So if you're a seasoned writer, author of fiction or nonfiction books, a professional in journalism, translation or scripts, you could be a ghostwriter. If you paid your dues in the industry, if you've been through the experience, I had the ill idea that when I wrote my first book, I was equipped to do a lot of things, but I soon learned that to navigate this thing called writing, you really need to go to writers' conventions and conferences. You need to be parts of groups like this. It makes a big difference. And then you can be a book editor who wants to do more writing. You can be business minded. You can be able, you must be able to meet deadlines. Because people get real crazy when you don't meet deadlines. Am I right? It's worse than your acquisitions editor screaming at you because you missed a deadline, okay? It's worse. Because somebody has invested in your talent, written a check to you, and they want results, okay? And then you need to be flexible, okay? Now, I put together timelines for my projects, but life happens, and you need to be flexible. Sometimes the client is not available to discuss the project, or sometimes they decide in the middle of the project they want to go a different way. So they've hired you, and their expectancy of you is simply this: you got to perform. They expect you to perform, okay? And then have an appetite for new writing challenges. So let's say you are genre specific, and it's okay to be genre specific. But what it's not okay to be is to take your preconceived ideas about that genre into an experience. Because writing is an evolutionary process. We can say 20 years ago, writers had a different mentality than they do now. And I can say that with the utmost sincerity, okay? So things change, not just in the industry, but you change, okay? And so you need to be able to adjust to those things. I do book project management. And one of my authors, I worked with him a couple of years ago, and we got his book done, and he came back He said he wanted his ebook done, and so I was like, okay, all right. And I was going the famous Amazon route, you know. Oh yeah, I could do Amazon, upload books and create the Amazon off the central page. All of that, I could do it in my sleep. But he said, no. He says, I changed my mind. I wanted to do it with Apple. I was like, they have ebooks? My eyes got big as saucers, and I was like, they have ebooks. Okay, iTunes is what he wanted. Okay. So I had to surrender to that experience, and believe you me, we got it and we made it work. Okay? But what gave me a confidence in attempting to assist that particular author was simply this. I'd already mastered the other route, the Amazon route. So, you know, it would be different, but it would also be similar. Okay? All right. So who would hire a ghostwriter? You need to know that. A publisher. Some of the small publishing houses may hire you, and let me tell you why. They may hire you because they might have a writer who isn't a good writer, but is a great celebrity, or an athlete or sports person, okay? That person has name recognition and they need someone to help them write their book, okay? So a publisher may hire you. And then a busy professional. Look, how many people at this table constantly have your iPhone or your Android connected to you? If you could just permanently put it on like an appendage, you would just be as happy as you could be. How many people? Okay, so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying people are so busy, and the reason why they need ghostwriters is because they want to expand their influence in an industry, or they need a better business card. And years ago, before it even became popular to say that a book is the new business card, I was saying a book is the new business card. And the reason why, because it really gives you cool points. How many people, when you told others that you were authors, that they just looked at you differently? Okay, now I have a client who has a 9th grade, he dropped out of school in the 9th grade. Well, he corrected me the other day. He said he was a 10th grade dropout. Well, okay, moral of the story, it gives him cool points. He writes these huge books, and I'm talking about nonfiction books on spirituality. And I can tell you, when I first picked up his manuscript to edit it, I was amazed. He went into the book of Revelations and he writes, he simplifies the book of Revelation. Everybody runs from the book of Revelation. They don't want to read that book, but the way he explains it, it is just amazing. So you never know who may come your way, or where the opportunity is. He's always wanted to be an author, and so he knocked on my door, and I've helped him. Okay, so and technically, I won't say this to him, but technically, I've helped him ghostwrite some of his book. Okay, and then someone wanting to write a memoir, a fiction novel, or a nonfiction book. I'm working with an 80-year-old woman now, 80 years old, and she's a retired school teacher. And so half of our time together is her explaining a concept to me. I'm like, okay, well, I think she's finally figured out the clock is ticking when she's explaining this concept. So now we're able to get to the bones and the meat of our conversation. And I share that with you because your ghostwriting client could be a corporate president, or your ghostwriting client could be a team of individuals who have a new concept that they want to share with the world, new scientific concept, or some academics, or I mean, so the sky's the limit when you decide that you want to do this. Let's say someone wants you to screenwrite, be a ghostwriter for a screenplay. You can do that. So don't just think about these wonderful things here, okay? And then, when you get the presentation, you'll see you can get opportunities for ghostwriting on Guru and also Reedsy. Okay, so if you're looking for opportunities, it's Guru, Guru, and Reedsy, Reedsy. And I have the links in the presentation. Okay. So sometimes people ask, what's in it for me? Well, you have to decide what's in it for you, okay, as a ghostwriter. You have to decide, do you want to partner with an individual, be a silent partner in the ghostwriting process? Do you want to just write the book, give the book to them, and move on? And let me share a little something with you. It depends on your experience and expertise, how much you can ask for when you go to someone, when you pitch someone. It's your expertise and also your client list, where you can't really tell them who your clients are, but the type of client you can tell them. Like, I've written for corporate heads, or I've written for let's say movie stars, or you understand where I'm coming from. So you have to decide, okay, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to partner with someone and co-write a book and be a silent partner? Do you want to write the entire book? Okay, and then you need to look at what amount of time is that going to take out of your life, because I don't know what it is, and y'all tell me if it happens to you, but people really think writers should write for free. Does it happen to you, or is it just me? Am I on the wrong side of town, or what's going on with that? So when you come to a client, know what your price scale is, and know what you're willing to do, and especially what you're not willing to do. I used to say I was a grant writer, but I backed off of that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because people want you to write grants for free, and then if they get the money, they want to pay you. You have invested your time, you have invested your expertise and your intellectual capital in creating a document for them. You need to get paid. So if somebody just comes to you, and I had this experience as a marketer. I worked for a major marketing company here in Houston for 3 years as their editor. So what happened was, sometimes somebody would get a bright idea. May I borrow your napkin? And they would write it on something like this, and then they throw it on my desk and they say, create something. Okay. And believe you me, I learned how to do it because they were doing my paycheck. You know what I mean? This is the idea that I have, and this is what I need you to create out of that idea. Well, if someone comes to you with a napkin and an idea and tells you that they want a book written on that, okay, so how much would you charge them? And I need feedback from you. How much would you charge them? Somebody tell me, how much would you, and thank you. How much would you charge them? 3 years. Oh, there you go. You got to look at the size. You got to look at your investment, your time investment. What is your hourly rate? Have you thought about that? May I ask you your hourly rate? $75 an hour.
Probably low.
Which, yes. But 3 years ago, when I did extensive research on ghostwriting, I meant to do it before I came here today, but I had a little emergency yesterday, and I had a group of authors going to a convention and then they totally wiped out the authors portion of the convention. So I was trying to put pieces together because we had bought tickets and all that wonderful kind of stuff. So I've been putting out fires. So anyway, 2-3 years ago, a ghostwriter, a beginning ghostwriter, per book, it was suggested that they charge $15,000. Okay? $15,000. So, well, that's your, a regular, a normal page book, maybe 150 pages. Okay? So let me help you with this. If you're new to the game, when you go somewhere and ask somebody for $15,000, they're going to look at you like you crazy because you're new to the game. So it's depending on how you market yourself. And that's the key. How are you going to market yourself? So I want each one of you to take a minute, and I want you to think about, I'm going to give you a scenario, and I want you to think about what you would charge for my request. Are you ready? Okay, I need you to ghostwrite a cookbook for me. I have 50 recipes, okay, and they're Italian recipes, okay, and I want the book published by Christmas. So, I literally available for sale by Christmas. So I did my word count because somebody told me you're going to ask me about my word count. So I'm probably going to have about 10,000 words, recipes, okay? So how much are you going to charge me for that? So everybody, I want you to think about that. Uh-huh. I'm not giving you the answer till you tell me how much you charge.
Photos included?
Huh?
Photos included?
I will give you the photos.
Do you have to translate them from Italian, or they're just Italian cooking recipes?
No translation required.
Can we do a consult for an hour so I can ask you some more questions?
So you're getting the ingredients, we have to come up with the rest of it?
Mm-hmm.
No. Let's put it this way, because I'm a cook. I'm making this, and I'm just gonna keep making it. So keep track of everything that I'm writing down, and just make it the same when you do the book, right? As a flippant answer that I think that is what you're going for.
Are you ready? May I help you? Since he helped you, I'm going to help you too. Thank you. You're going to have to spend time in that person's kitchen. If they don't have it written down, you're going to have to spend time in the kitchen. Or you can follow them around with a recorder and you can say, what's this? What's that? Okay. So a cookbook of that.
How much are you putting in?
Yes.
Just a little bit.
Yes. And you're going to have to figure out what that is. So, okay. I would say, what is this, September?
It's 10,000 words. You want it done in 6 months. It's 30K. It's a full-time job. Just under 6 months.
You're so cute. I love you. Actually, he is correct because of the degree of work that you're going to have to do in order to complete this project. See, don't just think about sitting behind a computer and compiling and writing a book, because you've got to interview people. You've got to get in their head. I once spent 3 days with a guy. Literally spent I've done that twice. I spent 3 days with this guy, a fashion designer, a luxury fashion designer, and he's a millennial. So that tells you a little something. And I was like, I don't know, I hope I can do this. And what I eventually ended up doing for him was a fashion lookbook. A fashion lookbook, which required very little words. But what I did was I crafted statements that matched the outfits and the purses and things that he had. And I had I had to name each category, okay? But I spent 3 days. I slept at his house, okay? So about 3 years ago, a friend of mine, and she's been asking me to help her write a book for a while. But she's a busy woman, and so she wasn't really paying attention to life. And unfortunately, she was in a major car accident and was injured severely. And she was in the hospital for a long time. And when she got out, she called me and she said, I need to write this book now. It was during the Christmas holidays. And so Miss Jenkins packed up her computer, and I stayed with her for 3 days to help her write her book. And what she had was a whole box of papers. And we had to go through those papers and put them in categories. So now I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna give you a little cheat sheet, just a little cheat sheet. So for some reason we didn't get to, oh no, they did front and back, praise the Lord. That may help you a little bit. And if anybody asks you who the Master Communicator is, I'm the Master Communicator. And we'll have to share. You don't mind sharing, do you? We got almost the same color lipstick on. We
have the same color
yeah,
clothes,
we good.
We're
We
soul
good.
sisters,
Yes.
And we are not millennials.
Oh, no, we're not. Y'all don't know what I went through when I stayed with that boy. Anyway.
You could write some
And we'll
stories, right?
get you.
We ran out.
Yeah, can we get a copy?
You're gonna keep yours so you can
Okay.
keep talking about it.
Okay. Thank you, sweetie.
Thank you so much.
So, you notice it says Ghostwriting Phase 1.
Yeah.
Okay? Ghostwriting Phase 1 is simply you are doing an inquiry. And you're asking them this question. Well, what is the proposed name or title of your book? Isn't that nice to ask them that? You know why you have to ask them? It may not be the actual title of the book, but it gets them to narrow their vision. I can't tell you how many people I've met who says, I want to write a book for everybody. I want to write a book for everybody, and my title is crazy. I mean, this title is really crazy. So I just want to know what's in your head, and that's what this is about. How many pages will be in your book? And a lot of times they'll say, oh, I don't know. How many do you recommend? And so I look at them and I decide, how long do I want to be in the boat with you? And then I think about the average size for a novel or the average size for a nonfiction book in their genre, and I try to compromise. And then what size or dimensions is your book? So some people, they want the little standard stuff, you know? But then other people, they want to be unique and exotic. And so they give you these dimensions that are kind of crazy. And so I'm diligent. So I'll go to my printer, and I work with a couple of printers. I'll go to my printer and I'll say, okay, how much would you charge for a book of this nature? And then I come back and I tell them, and usually when it's a specialty book, they charge a lot more. So when the client finds out that it's gonna cost them a lot more, they back off of it and say, well, what do regular people do? What do they usually do? What is the anticipated word count for your book? And that's another one. So as an expert, you can advise them. And that's the whole purpose of this thing. This is to get them to narrow their focus, okay? And as specific as they can get, you know, it is going to help you tremendously when you do it. How many chapters will you have in your book? What are the proposed character titles for each chapter? Now this requires work, okay? So once you get them straight on chapter titles, okay? Ask me how I help them to focus. Just somebody asked me. I send them to Amazon. And I get them to look at the bestsellers on Amazon. And you know what? Some of them will actually purchase a few of them and review them. And so when we have our next conversation, they're more educated and informed. So my whole purpose as a ghostwriter is to narrow their vision and to make sure that whatever I'm writing for them is marketable. You got that? Okay. So on the
Not in here, so let's say it one more time, the M word.
what is the mission of each chapter? What do you want your reader to walk away with in each chapter? And you know, they'll look at me with that deer in the headlights kind of look, and they'll say, reader, who is that? The person that you're writing the book for, okay? So the reason why I ask them these questions is it helps them to pinpoint what they really want to do with that book. And sometimes it takes 3 or 4 sessions to get them to this place. So, and let me tell you, I did have a client, and he wasn't a ghostwriting client. He was an editing client, but I want to share this story with you. And I'm going to give this to you.
By the way, your friend came by and brought you lunch.
Oh, good, you got it?
It's right
Yeah, oh, thank you. I was just running my mouth. I ain't even paying
I had to wait
attention.
for a little break, my
Oh,
apologies.
thank you,
That's
sweet.
all.
No, that's all right. But I'm giving this to you as a thank you. Okay.
Absolutely.
Now this guy was, I don't know what it is about 80-year-old people. But this guy was an 80-year-old lawyer. He had previously written a book. And I went on Amazon, I checked it out, and I would have never done half the stuff that he did. But remember, an 80-year lawyer who had a very successful career, retired, okay, the country club kind of guy, okay. So he gives me this manuscript. He wouldn't send it to me. I met him at Starbucks because he was checking me out. He gives me this manuscript about this high in a 3-ring binder, okay? And I had to develop a relationship with him, but he literally would have had a book that was double this size. And I had to talk to him, his wife had to talk to him, and we made this a series. And it's Houston based. And this little fella, he fed me Tate's chocolate chip cookies. I was addicted to them when I was working with him. But I literally had to go over his house every week, and we went word for word in that huge manuscript. And we went through every word, and we not only reviewed it once, we reviewed it twice. So you have to ask yourself, what am I willing to do for a client before you even start ghostwriting? And how much will I ask for that? So I'm very comfortable in telling you that he paid me a lot of money, okay? I won't tell you how much, but I can tell you it was the most anybody ever paid me to get this done.
Was that one in advance?
No advance. I had to, he's a lawyer, he's got to trust me. He has to learn to trust me, okay? So every time I met with him, he paid me. I loved it. Once a week, I know I'm going to get some money. Okay, as a writer, you know, that's very encouraging.
That's very nice.
So I'm sharing this story with you because he had a great idea. His books are very good. You're going to want to get the second part of this. But you would never think the mind of a lawyer would go. And this is about a lawyer and a baseball player. His storyline was huge. I mean, just very abnormal, okay? But the way he sat down and put this thing together, he made it believable. And sometimes people will come to you with really weird ideas, but they have the vision to see that thing to fruition. It's not your job to tell them no. It's your job to help them make the best decision. And sometimes we wrestled over things. We did. But his wife, she's so nice. She helped me persuade him to do the 2-book thing versus, okay? So the reason why I'm sharing these stories with you is simply this. Ghostwriting ain't for punks. Okay? It ain't for punks. So if you don't like people, and you don't like being in uncomfortable situations, if you don't like running behind some folks to get what you need, you might not want to ghostwrite. But I can tell you, it has truly expanded my horizon. I've seen people that have a vision to write a book, and they never thought that they could. And then when they see the book literally materialize, they are amazed. This morning, I'm in the bathroom brushing my teeth. Y'all say, I don't want to go to the bathroom with you, but I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth, and I will share this with you. The phone rings, and it's Jaime, who wants to be known as James. And the designer just finished his cookbook. And he had this very specific vision for this cookbook, Mexican cookbook, and it is, even my play daughter, I have play daughters, my authors become my family. My play daughter said, oh, and she's a millennial, I got to buy this book, when I showed her the design, because it is out of this world. Every time I see it, I'll never be bored with it, because it is absolutely gorgeous. So he calls me on the phone and he says, Miss Jenkins, it's perfect. It's perfect. And he said, it brought me to tears. That's why I do what I do. For that aha, that wow. You know what I mean? So when you're a ghostwriter, you get to take somebody's dream, make sure you handle it with care, but you get to see it manifested. And if you get a client who has deep pockets, I would advise you to do whatever they tell you to do that's legal, moral, and ethical to get it done. Because some people will fly you to the ends of the earth just so they can get their books done. If you get a dream client like that, enjoy the journey. If you just get a client who wants to write a book and they need a ghostwriter, they're real busy and they're throwing stuff at you and you got to run after them to, I've had a lot of Denny's meetings, a lot of IHOP's meetings to meet with people who are writing books. But when you get those, all of them have been a journey for me. And most of the time they leave me with a smile on their face. Sometimes not so. I've worked with mean girls before. Okay, mean girls, and anybody who's been in high school knows what I'm talking about. And they grow up and they're meaner. Okay, and my little heart is crushed because it gets crushed sometimes simply because I have a genuine interest in authors, and I have a genuine interest in your book project manifesting. I was vested as a lover of authors from a young age, and I'm 62 now, so when you think about how long I've been in love with authors, I can't help but help you manifest your dream. Is still with me, you see. So I'm telling you, if you don't love people and you aren't ready for adventures, please don't ghostwrite, because you're going to have them. And sometimes people will, for example, I love historical fiction. Oh, baby, give me a historical fiction book and I will, I'm in another world. Well, if you're a ghostwriter, you got to go to the places where, history was created. And if it was the Revolutionary War, you might go to the UK to, do some research. Have fun with this experience is what I'm saying. Have fun with it. Questions and answers. Am I doing okay?
You're doing fantastic.
Okay.
But I want to know if you have a time limit, because I could actually sit here and pepper you with questions for 2 hours. I want to give other people the option first, but just in case.
Great question.
Oh.
Well, okay. I think you've done wonderful. Actually, I want to go ahead and give a big thank you to Sharon.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hey, just so we don't forget.
You're welcome.